I need to be honest with you about something that's been eating at me. I've been prepping for 15 years, and there are 17 foods sitting in my basement right now that I've never posted about online, never mentioned in forums, and definitely never told my prepping buddies about. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button right now because I'm sharing stuff here that most preppers keep completely secret. Food number one is miso paste. Okay, this first one is hiding in plain sight at almost every grocery store, but I've never seen a single prepper talk about it. Miso paste. This is fermented soybean paste that the Japanese have been using for over 1,000 years. Here's what makes it absolutely perfect for your hidden stockpile. Miso paste, when kept sealed, lasts literally forever. I'm not exaggerating. The fermentation process actually preserves it indefinitely. I've got containers in my prep that are 5 years old, and they're still perfect. But here's where it gets interesting. 1 tablespoon of miso dissolved in hot water gives you a nutrient-dense soup instantly. Food number 2 is ghee. Now, number 2 is something that changed my entire prepping philosophy. Ghee, which is clarified butter. Before you think that's just regular butter, let me blow your mind. I have a jar of ghee that's been sitting in my pantry at room temperature for 3 years. 3 years with 0 refrigeration. Last month, I used it to cook eggs, and it tasted absolutely perfect. Here's what most preppers don't understand. Regular butter needs refrigeration and goes bad quickly. Coconut oil is good but expensive. Ghee is shelf stable indefinitely and costs less than half what preppers pay for freeze-dried butter alternatives. The process of making ghee removes all the milk solids and water, leaving pure butter fat that cannot go rancid. It's chemically stable. Indian families have been storing ghee for generations, sometimes passing down jars that are decades old. In a crisis situation, your body desperately needs fat, not just for calories, but for absorbing vitamins A, D, E, and K. Without fat, you can't process those nutrients. Food number 3 is canned oysters. Number 3 is going to sound weird, but stay with me because this is probably the most nutrient-dense food you can stockpile. Canned oysters. I discovered this by accident 3 years ago. I was in a small European grocery store and saw these tiny cans of smoked oysters for $2 each. Did some research and realized I'd been completely missing out. Here's why oysters are prep gold. 1 small can contains more zinc than most people get in an entire week. Zinc is critical for immune function, wound healing, and mental clarity. In a stressful survival situation, your body burns through zinc at triple the normal rate. But here's what makes oysters absolutely next level. They're one of the only foods that contain every single nutrient your body needs. Complete proteins, omega-3 fatty acids, iron, selenium, copper, vitamin B12, and vitamin D. We're talking about a complete multivitamin in a shelf-stable can. Food number 4 is potato flour. All right, number 4 is something I stumbled on completely by accident, and now I won't prep without it. Potato flour, not potato flakes or instant mashed potatoes. I'm talking about actual flour made from dehydrated potatoes. I found this at a European market 2 years ago, and it's been a game changer. Here's why this matters. Potato flour, when stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, lasts 10 to 15 years easily. Compare that to regular all-purpose flour, which goes rancid in less than a year. But the real magic is what you can do with it. Potato flour is naturally gluten-free, which is critical if anyone in your family has celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. In a collapse, you think there's going to be gluten-free options available? Not a chance. Food number 5 is canned coconut milk. Number 5 is sitting in every grocery store right now, but I've never seen it on a single prepper list. Full-fat canned coconut milk. Not the coconut water or the thin coconut beverage. I'm talking about the thick, creamy stuff in the international aisle. Here's why this is brilliant. In a survival scenario, fat is absolutely king. Your body needs it for energy, for warmth, for brain function, for hormone production. And most prepper foods are dangerously low in fat content. 1 can of full-fat coconut milk contains about 50 grams of healthy fats. That's like carrying concentrated energy. Food number 6 is TVP. Number 6 is something most preppers have never heard of, but it's been quietly used by smart survivalists for decades. Textured vegetable protein called TVP. This is dehydrated soy protein that comes in chunks or granules. Here's what makes it perfect. TVP is incredibly lightweight, lasts for years, and when you rehydrate it, it has the texture of ground meat. 1 pound of dried TVP rehydrates into about 3 pounds of meat substitute. The shelf life is insane. Stored properly in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, TVP lasts 10 to 20 years. And the protein content is off the charts, about 50 grams of protein per cup of dry TVP. I discovered this while researching how long-distance hikers manage protein on the trail. They can't carry heavy cans, so they use TVP. Food number 7 is chia seeds. Number 7 is going to sound trendy, but hear me out because the science behind this is incredible. Chia seeds. These tiny seeds were literally used as currency by Aztec warriors because they were so valuable for survival. Here's why modern preppers need to pay attention. Chia seeds maintain their omega-3 content for years when stored properly. We're talking about more omega-3s in 1 tablespoon than an entire serving of salmon. But here's the game changer. Chia seeds absorb up to 12 times their weight in water. In your stomach, they form this gel that slows digestion dramatically. That means you feel full way longer and your body has more time to extract nutrition from food. Last year I did a test. I ate my normal breakfast of rice and beans and was hungry 3 hours later. Next day, same meal with 1 tablespoon of chia seeds added. I stayed full for 7 hours. Do you understand what this means for rationing? You can stretch your food supply significantly just by adding chia seeds to every meal. And here's another huge advantage. Chia seeds require 0 cooking. Food number 8 is dried seaweed. Number 8 is where things get really interesting. Dried seaweed. Before you click away thinking this is some weird health food thing, let me share something that changed my mind completely. Japanese researchers found dried seaweed in 1,000-year-old storage containers. 1,000 years old. And when they tested it, the nutritional content was still impressive. Here's what nobody talks about. 1 sheet of nori contains more iodine than most people get in an entire week. Iodine is critical for thyroid function, which controls your metabolism, energy, mood, everything. In a long-term survival situation, iodine deficiency causes serious problems. Last winter, a prepper friend of mine came down with extreme fatigue during a 2-week power outage. Food number 9 is nutritional yeast. All right, number 9 sounds weird to traditional preppers, but this has been a total game changer in my stockpile. Nutritional yeast, before you think this is some vegan hippie food, listen to what it actually is. Nutritional yeast is deactivated yeast that tastes like cheese. It's absolutely loaded with B vitamins and complete protein, and it lasts up to 2 years in storage, sometimes longer. Here's what makes it perfect for prepping. It adds this savory, cheesy flavor to any bland survival food without needing refrigeration. I learned about this from a plant-based friend a few years back. She put some on popcorn and I was hooked. Then I started researching it for prep purposes and realized this is seriously overlooked. Food number 10 is bouillon paste. Number 10 is something most preppers completely overlook, and I think it's because it seems too simple. Bouillon paste. Not the cubes, the paste that comes in jars. Here's why this is brilliant. Bouillon paste is basically concentrated stock that you can add to literally anything. Rice becomes restaurant quality. Beans get actual flavor. Even plain pasta turns into something your family wants to eat. During the 2023 supply chain issues, I watched bouillon products sit fully stocked, while everything else disappeared. Nobody thinks to panic buy bouillon, but here's what makes the paste better than cubes. The flavor is more complex. It dissolves instantly, even in cold water, and it's easier to control the amount you use. One jar contains about 38 servings and costs around $6. Food number 11 is canned butter. Number 11 is something I only discovered 2 years ago, and I'm still mad that nobody told me about it sooner. Canned butter. Yes, butter in a can. This exists and it's amazing. Red Feather and other brands make butter that's canned and shelf stable for years. The shelf life is typically 2 to 5 years, but I've read reports of people using cans that were 10 years old with no issues. Here's why this matters. In a grid down situation, refrigeration is the first thing you lose. Regular butter spoils in hours without cold storage, but canned butter sits on your shelf indefinitely. Each can contains either 12 ounces or a full pound of real butter. Not butter powder, not margarine, actual dairy butter. When you open it, it looks, smells, and tastes exactly like butter from your fridge. I tested this during a camping trip. Used canned butter that was 3 years old to cook eggs and make biscuits. Everyone said it tasted completely normal. The cost is higher than regular butter, about $8 to $10 per can. But think about what you're getting. Shelf-stable, real butter that provides critical fat, improves taste, and boosts morale. In a survival situation, spreading real butter on bread is a massive psychological comfort. I keep 12 cans in my stockpile. That's enough to last my family several months when used carefully. Storage is simple. Keep the cans in a cool, dark place. That's it. And here's what makes this really valuable. While other preppers are messing around with butter powder that tastes fake or ghee, which some people don't like, you've got the real thing. The versatility is huge. Use it for cooking, baking, or just spreading on bread. Fat is critical for survival, and canned butter delivers it in a familiar form that actually tastes good. Food number 12 is instant mashed potato flakes. Number 12 is old school, but most preppers underestimate it. Instant mashed potato flakes. Not potato flour, the flakes specifically designed to make instant mashed potatoes. Here's why these are prep gold. Potato flakes are incredibly calorie dense, about 1,600 calories per pound. In a survival situation where you need maximum energy, this is critical. The shelf life is excellent. When stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, they last 10 to 15 years easily. And the preparation is brain dead simple. Add hot water, stir, and you've got mashed potatoes in 30 seconds. But here's what most people miss. Potato flakes are incredibly versatile. You can make instant mashed potatoes, obviously, but also use them to thicken soups and stews, Add them to bread dough for moisture, use them as a binder in meatloaf or veggie burgers, or even make potato pancakes. I discovered this versatility by accident during a power outage. I was making soup and it was too thin. Threw in a handful of potato flakes, and within minutes, it was perfectly thick and creamy. The cost is ridiculously cheap. A large box runs about $4 and makes probably 20 servings. I keep about 15 pounds stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Total investment is maybe $25, and that's literally thousands of calories of comfort food. Here's the psychological angle. Mashed potatoes are comfort food. In a stressful situation, having something familiar and comforting matters more than you think. Kids especially respond well to foods they recognize. Storage is simple. Transfer them out of the cardboard box into Mylar bags or food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers. Keep them cool and dry. And while other preppers are spending big money on freeze-dried potatoes, you've got the same thing for a fraction of the cost. Food number 13 is dried lentils. Number 13 is something preppers should know about, but many overlook in favor of beans. Dried lentils. Here's why lentils are actually better than beans for prepping. First, they cook way faster. Beans need hours of cooking or overnight soaking. Lentils cook in 15 to 20 minutes with no soaking required. In a fuel-scarce situation, that difference is massive. Second, lentils are easier to digest than beans. Less gas, less stomach discomfort. When you're under stress, digestive issues compound quickly. Third, the protein content is excellent. 1 cup of cooked lentils provides about 18 grams of protein plus tons of fiber and minerals. The shelf life is incredible. Stored in airtight containers, dried lentils last 10 to 15 years, possibly longer. I've got lentils that are 7 years old, and they still cook perfectly. There are multiple varieties. Red lentils cook fastest and turn into this creamy texture, perfect for soups. Green and brown lentils hold their shape better, great for salads or side dishes. Black lentils have this almost meaty texture. I keep about 50 pounds of mixed varieties in food-grade buckets. Cost me around $40 total. That's hundreds of meals worth of complete nutrition. Here's a real-world example. Last year during a storm, we had no power for 5 days. I made lentil soup on my camp stove, 15 minutes of cooking, and we had this hearty, filling meal that everyone loved. The versatility is huge. Make soup, cook them like rice as a side dish, mash them into burgers, or even sprout them for fresh greens. And here's the best part. While everyone's fighting over beans during shortages, lentils are usually fully stocked because most Americans don't eat them regularly. Food number 14 is canned sardines. Number 14 is something that might gross some people out, but the nutrition is undeniable. Canned sardines. These little fish are probably the most nutrient-dense, shelf-stable protein you can buy. Here's what makes sardines perfect for prepping. They're loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, critical for brain function and reducing inflammation. One can provide about 23 grams of complete protein. They're packed with calcium because you eat the bones. They contain vitamin D, which most people are deficient in, and they're one of the few food sources of vitamin B12. The shelf life is excellent, typically 3 to 5 years, but like most canned fish, they're often good for much longer. The bones soften during the canning process, so you can eat them without even noticing. That's where all the calcium comes from. I personally keep about 50 cans in my stockpile. Cost is around $60 total. That's 50 servings of incredibly nutrient-dense protein. The taste is strong, I'll admit that, but mix them into pasta, put them on crackers, or mash them up with some mayo and make sardine salad. In a survival situation, you're not going to be picky. Here's something most preppers don't know. Sardines are one of the most sustainable fish you can eat. They're low on the food chain, so they don't accumulate mercury like larger fish. They reproduce quickly, so they're not overfished. You're stockpiling nutrition without destroying ocean ecosystems. The portability is perfect too. Each can weigh just a few ounces but provides massive nutrition. For a bug-out bag, sardines are one of the best protein sources you can pack. And during shortages, while everyone's fighting over canned tuna, sardines sit there ignored because most people think they're weird. Food number 15 is Masa harina. Number 15 is something I discovered while researching traditional survival foods. Masa harina, which is corn flour treated with lime. This is what's used to make corn tortillas and tamales. Here's why it's brilliant for prepping. Masa harina is shelf-stable for years when stored properly. The lime treatment process, called nixtamalization, actually unlocks nutrients in the corn that wouldn't otherwise be available. It increases calcium content dramatically and makes the protein more bioavailable. Plus, it's incredibly versatile. Make fresh tortillas with just masa harina, water, and salt. Make tamales if you have fat and fillings. Use it to thicken soups and stews. Make corn chips by frying small pieces of dough. I learned how to make tortillas last year, and it's stupid simple. Mix masa harina with water until it forms a dough, press it flat, and cook it on a hot pan for 1 minute per side. Fresh tortillas in 5 minutes. The psychological value is huge. Fresh bread is comforting and familiar. In a crisis situation, being able to make fresh tortillas gives you a morale boost that's hard to overstate. Food number 16 is dried whole milk powder. Number 16 is something that most preppers already have, but they're using the wrong kind. You need to focus on dried whole milk powder, not the non-fat kind. Here's why the difference is critical. In a survival situation, fat equals calories and energy. Non-fat dry milk is mostly just protein and sugar. Whole milk powder, while slightly more expensive and with a shorter shelf life, typically 3 to 5 years compared to 5 to 10 for non-fat, provides that critical concentrated fat content. 1 cup of reconstituted whole milk provides about 150 calories and 8 grams of fat, compared to 80 calories and almost 0 fat for non-fat. The fat content also makes it taste much, much better. In a crisis, flavor and comfort matter. Use it for drinking, for baking, for making creamy sauces, or even for making butter if you're desperate. I keep 20 pounds stored in vacuum-sealed containers. Food number 17 is white rice vinegar. Finally, food number 17 is something that's cheap, shelf-stable forever, and is critical for both food prep and non-food uses. White rice vinegar. Here's the secret. Vinegar, by its very nature, is a preservative. It lasts indefinitely, but most preppers focus on apple cider vinegar, which is great, and completely forget about the inexpensive, more versatile rice vinegar. In a survival scenario, you need ways to preserve food that you grow or scavenge. Rice vinegar is the perfect mild acid for pickling vegetables, extending their shelf life dramatically. It's also an excellent, safe disinfectant and cleaner. Mix it with water for an all-purpose surface cleaner that kills germs without harsh chemicals. It's critical for making salad dressings, adding flavor to bland meals, and balancing the flavors in stews and soups. I keep 4 gallons stored away. It's cheap, lasts forever, and has a dozen essential uses. The secret is out. So there they are, the 17 hidden foods that have been the quiet backbone of my prepping strategy for 15 years. This isn't about being trendy, it's about optimizing for nutrition, caloric density, shelf life, and often price. Most prepper lists focus on the basics: beans, rice, wheat, and those are essential. But these 17 items are what separate a basic stockpile from a comprehensive, resilient, and frankly, delicious one. Remember, prepping is not just about survival, it's about thriving. It's about ensuring that when things go sideways, you and your family are eating nutrient-dense, flavorful food that keeps your energy, your health, and your morale high. Now that you know my secrets, go out there, hit your international aisle, and start prepping smarter, not just harder. If you learned something new, drop a comment below and let me know which of these 17 foods you're adding to your stockpile. Stay safe and happy prepping.